welcome. So, um, we're back. We're back with another video, and this video is coming at the calming of the Daredevil Born Again storm. It's it's been such an experience watching this show. Honestly, um, there's something about a show that continues through its fan appreciation. I think you know, superheroes, we get there's a great rep and then there's the bad reps, but the fan dedication to this show was something that really like pushed it through, pushed it forward, and really gave momentum to the stories that they wanted to tell. And I'm so glad that they were so willing to interact with the fans, interact with people that love the content, that love the material that we've been given. And so yes, I it's maybe like 2 weeks, 3 weeks since the finale. And with a finale and a show that had so much like social commentary that was given, that was received from the show, it was some I felt like I needed a minute to kind of take everything in and to kind of process everything, to take in what I liked and what I didn't like. um if I have the strength, I'll maybe like add a bit of a debrief about my overall feelings about the show. But and I don't want to be much of a spoiler. It's not what I'm trying to do. But what I do want to talk about, and I'm not sure if I'd want to make this a series in terms of three women in terms of a video, but my when I watched Daredevil and taking in all the commentary, there was something that I felt was amiss. And what was kind of missing in these stories was, I felt, commentary on certain characters. I think certain characters' influence on the plot, on the story, on characters like that they're across was so important, and they weren't really given the spotlight that they deserved, even through press, even through the press tour. I won't lie. I would have liked if there was one more character in the press tour. And that character I'm going to speak about, and then I'd like to speak about two other characters that really made great additions to such a well-established world. But in terms of a character or a person that I really wish we had gotten more interviews, more background, more story, even a breakdown of her closet, um, was Vanessa Fisk. When we take in Vanessa Fisk, of course, the first thing you think about is Wilson Fisk, her husband. But it's very, very, very important that we remember that even in the beginning, Vanessa stood very strong across from her partner. When Vanessa and Wilson meet, we meet Vanessa through their interactions. And to watch her kind of use such an innate and intellectual state of empathy to speak to Wilson and to speak to the people she deals and curates art with and for, you see very quickly first of all, a highly educated woman, and highly educated in a very social, art, historic way. And that's influence. History is a lot of influence if used correctly, and she does that very well. And her interactions with Wilson show us that she sometimes feels like a canary. She feels like he's canary. This meter of where he's at and how he's explosive. If his explosiveness reaches her, it's too far, and that's how we know. But she is not passive in any of this. If anything, she's very active in, you know, pushing Wilson to be more, to embrace the greatness that he wants to. And sometimes when you watch it, you see her kind of form a greater man. I think Kingpin likes to come off as a beast in its own way, in his own way, but she really made a man out of him. She made a formidable man. and she done so not through violence, not through sex, not through money, or even trade of, how do I say this? It wasn't a business deal. She didn't look at him like business. She made greatness in him, in how he dresses, in how he presents himself, in what he does, and who he's interacting with. And she does that very much in the first, Netflix production of the show. Then we go to, so as of, the Disney Marvel merger, there was 4 year gap, 4 maybe 5 years worth of a gap in the story. And we experience that through, first of all, seeing Vincent D'Onofrio in other shows, but we see a lack of Vanessa. That's very clear. We see a lack of her. And that lack is absolutely, filled when it comes to Daredevil Born Again. Ayelet Zerer is who plays Vanessa Fisk. And one of the greatest things I was so happy about was the fact that they agreed, or they were able to bring her back to the show. Recasting her would have been a mess, an absolute mess. I don't think anyone can, I don't think there are a lot of people who can capture that. And she feels like she created Vanessa in a very, sometimes actors, you can tell, take a bit of liberty in forming a person, in forming a character. And you can tell that she's very intentional in how she made and presents Vanessa. And in Daredevil Born Again, we see her not like she presents Vanessa like an evolution. We watch an evolution of this woman. We watch her go from a woman who is willing to be beside power and, nurture it and find purpose in it. But in this new Daredevil Born Again, we watch an evolution of power. And there's no greater scene to show that than when Wilson comes back and she's in the meeting with the five families in the striking white suit. And it's not a suit, it's a dress, and it is so beautifully tailored. It is so beautifully made. But on top of that, it really creates, and even the scene and the setting that she's in, this meeting hall, you can tell that as much as it is very underground, she has put a lot of sophistication into it. It's not just dirty business. We're not doing dirty business. We're making profits. We're making money. And let's act like it. That's what she's presenting all of this to and all of this as. But when Wilson comes back, emptying that room, with not one word, we immediately see a problem in terms of power of dynamic and the power of an already established relationship getting a gap of 4 years. Vanessa is not who he left behind. If anything, she is stronger, and she has made his business stronger in a way that I don't think Wilson would have been able to. He's very smart, but he's very impulsive. He's very volatile, very instant in his rage. And that is something that, made a empire out of fear. But Vanessa made an empire out of profit and loyalty. And as she says, she made it bulletproof. She not only shows her strengths in that meeting, but we also see her willingness to use death and assassination in her meeting with Poindexter. It is terrifying when you witness her use that safety of herself. She comes off very, I don't want to use the word docile. That's not the word. When she's speaking to Poindexter, we watch her become a very dark, image of herself. Here she's willing to use death, and she's willing to use death and be the reason for it. And the man that she ends up killing, made me almost not want to make this video, but we heal and we move and we become better people. But when we see her interaction with Poindexter, it's very clear that she she is not only willing to take power, but she's also willing to kill for it. But she doesn't do it by her hand. And the one time she does kill someone by her hand, it's for Wilson. It is there is this constant state of she's so dimensional. That's what I want to say about it. She is highly dimensional in the way that she presents herself. Ayala Terrere as Vanessa is, first of all, one of some of my favorite casting ever. I think she's so good. I don't know much about her. I know that in the comics there is still that really strong sense of love and devotion to each other from Vanessa and Wilson. But this character here feels so, you know, when they say well rounded, like this is a really well rounded character. That's very true in this instance. We see her and we see her, you almost don't root for her. You just can't help but want to follow her, to follow what you know will be a great character. And it is it is she is a great point of plot for the story. I think finding out, and this is going to be a spoiler, but the scene with Matt at the male like dinner gala dance thing, I don't know. When we find out that she is in charge of, you know, kind of unleashing Poindexter on the bar, there's there's an inherent chill that comes up your spine because you kind of go, she's officially capable of anything. She is, and she's willing to do anything for what she wants. And where that is scary, it is also very exciting. But yes, I wish for when you watch Daredevil Born Again, I hope that other people watch this show and see the strength that she really pushes in this show in terms of a, I will not call her a villain. I will not. But I will call her a force and one to be reckoned with. And the detail she puts into being a force. What I will say is, I think I wish I had seen more of her during the press tour. I understand Daredevil Born Again. I understand the premise. I understand. I'm not saying no. But it would have been so nice to see her, you know, share her feelings about this character. I watched a short clip of her, you know, making like in an interview about Daredevil Born Again and her insights about it. She was speaking about how she was very you know, apprehensive about the ability to portray a character like between these years. You know, she's, you know, left her and now she must come back. And she said once she stepped into the clothing, she emphasized the clothing a lot. And I understand why, because it was such a like it was such a vital point of character. It was such a vital point of presenting Vanessa. And I hope that in further seasons they're able to see that she's really important to this like story, and not just as someone to for Wilson to contend with, but she deserves the she deserves that limelight, that spotlight even, to push, you know, further. And you know, the death of Adam really shows us that she can be pushed further. And I'm excited to see how she is when it comes to the darkness that kind of comes with Wilson and her limits and her boundaries and how far she's willing to go. Now, she is a powerhouse. Vanessa is a powerhouse in this. But there was another character that I think when watching her, I felt Bibi Yerk. She is played by Janine Walton. Walton? Yes. Bibi Yerk is a particularly interesting character to me, especially because I think she represents the, you know, vital goal. Sorry. She represents a vital goal that Marvel had been trying to pitch all throughout Phase 4, which is the concept of characters with legacies for others. Bibi Yerk is Ben Yerk's niece. And to watch Ben Yerk was so vital to Daredevil Born Again. He was so amazing. Just his relationship with Karen and his relationship and his ability to bring us into the story through his journalism was so important, and he played his role so well in, you know, giving us that. So when I think of Bibi Yerrick and the way she kind of takes on this role of journalism and truth, I I am so happy. I'm so happy because it is done successfully. The concept of legacy continued is done successfully through BB Yerrick. Something that they have struggled with different characters. It doesn't matter how, it doesn't matter who, but there's been a lot of struggle for legacy characters in Marvel. And sorry, one thing that I will say is I the feeling I had about journalism throughout Daredevil and Daredevil Born Again is the same feeling that I have when I think about Lois Lane and Clark Kent when it comes to the Daily Planet, and especially Superman and Lois at the Gazette. The use of, media, we have to understand that the superheroes we are watching on a ground level, especially if we're going to talk about such a show like Superman and Lois, but Daredevil, superheroes are not media trained. It's not like in this case, it's not nanotech and, you know, big publicity. Here, the heroes are saving people in the streets. The heroes are saving grandmothers, mothers, brothers, sons, and their testimony through, media, through sharing their stories about how they've been saved, who has saved them, when they've seen these vigilantes or these heroes, what they feel, is so important. It creates a greater universe instead of having us single in on our preferred feeling, because our preferred feeling is to believe that all of us want, superheroes and vigilantes. They're important. They help fill the gap where, law enforcement can't really reach. But and BB Eric's BB reports are such a great representation of that. First of all, finding out that the people in those reports were people on the New York street was so amazing. It made me feel like they went straight to the source. If we're gonna, use that language, they went straight to the source with it. They made sure that, not they made sure, they allowed a true, honest, report and feeling and expression of, you know, people being saved by vigilantes, having vigilantes or heroes in your city, your town, what you feel is a limit, where's a boundary, what can they do, what can't they do, and how we interact with the feeling of taking matters into our own hands. The BB report does all of that and more. It truly allows Hell's Kitchen to be populated. That is its population. She represents a population. She represents people, voices. And I was so happy to see that. And on top of that, she represents a younger voice. I mean, we see her first of all talk about the fact that she's not only reporting under the BB reports, she has other aliases. These aliases are so important because already we know there are, lines and boundaries and things she's willing to do, and to share these stories and share the truth and make sure the truth is out there. And one of those one of those instances, not just one, I think her interaction with Daniel. Daniel was a very interesting character. I like Daniel. I really like Daniel. But her interaction with Daniel told me so much. So much that I needed to know. She will do what it takes. And she's willing to do what it takes, and even if she stumbles, she continues to step even on that stumble to move forward. And when we see her expose the green energy story, we see her utilize a ruthlessness, but for truth. Sure, she pulled that information out of Daniel, and she almost got him fired. That scene, we're going to talk about that scene. But we also see what happens when she knows that her back is against the wall. She is not self-sacrificial. She knows that to tell the story, you need to be alive. Point blank. You need to be alive. And I'm so a part of me really hopes that she's able to continue to find out all that information that she was supposed to get from Commissioner Gordon. Oh, Commissioner Gordon. But I want to see her utilize this, you know, raw and honest truth, this raw and honest want and need to share stories and to share truth, to ensure that the city knows who they voted for. It is so political, and political is dangerous, and it's very clear that as time goes on, and even Daniel becomes a threat instead of this prop and this puppet that you can lure and pull information out of. He becomes a threat, and that's politics, a friend today and a threat tomorrow. And i want I want to see her kind of step up to it, realize that, okay, we are no longer just in the streets interviewing regular people, pushing buttons about, where is your wife, Mr. Fisk? It steps on toes, and steps on very heavy toes. So she needs to, we gonna watch her develop this, to grow in this, to become a greater source of storytelling. And I'm so excited about it. I'm very, very, very excited about BB Yurick, and I think the legacy that she represents. Because if she find when we know how Ben Yurick's end was, and it does leave you on edge to ask yourself, will she learn from lessons from others, or will she repeat them? And I pray she doesn't repeat them. I really, really pray she doesn't repeat them. But yes, the last person I want to talk about is Sheila. I'm so sorry, I didn't get her surname. I don't know how I messed this up, but I'll put it. But Sheila, who is Mayor Fisk's a political analyst, is played by Zabarina Guevara. I really apologize. I'm learning that African names are not the only names that are hard to say. Everyone's names are hard to say. But Sheila, to me, is, I really like her. I really like what she represents. I really like what she creates in terms of a character. She represents, first of all, the second script. She represents the second piece of Daredevil Born Again, not the first production. She feels like she represents this. Um, First of all, Sheila enters as a new character in a heavily established production and world. There, we already know what's going on around us. We already know that it's crazy. We already know that when Wilson is looking at her, with a very, very tight jaw, he wants to kill her, and she doesn't. At least not at the beginning of the show. She is almost new to all to the volatility that is kind of being injected into Hell's Kitchen through the mayor's office, and it is it is something interesting to see her initial, force of being this political analyst and being a cricket, a Jiminy cricket, a cricket on Wilson's plans, but she also sometimes stands as a hurdle. And it's scary to see her when she does become a hurdle, because we don't know if she's kind of just holding on to something that's heating up and it's gonna reach her at some point. This is this is very when we see Sheila in the first few episodes, we watch her make very, very clear lines of legislation, law, process, due process. She doesn't play about it. We know that when she is talking about when she is putting all these like things in place, it's because she studied it, she knows it, she's been in that office longer than anybody else. She understands the law and legislation of being a mayor, of being in charge of a city, what it means, what you can do, what you can't do. And for a while she really holds those reins tight, be it be it holding the reins on Wilson, or be it on Daniel. She really tries very hard to keep this, shaken bottle still. But it's but when we start seeing her lose it, that's when things get really, really interesting. The scene that I think we watch her realize that she is not just in the mayor's office, but she is currently under an administration that is scarier than others could and should know, is when Daniel admits that he is the reason there was a leak about the green energy story. And what happens is Fisk loses his mind. He's going off, and Sheila is trying to kind of calm it. She knows that Daniel is not a bad person. He's not even bad at his job. He just made a stupid mistake, and a big stupid mistake in this instance. And she really tries to calm the situation down, and that doesn't work. What actually does calm the situation down is Daniel's intense, devoted pleading. It is almost like a chill when you watch him pledge himself to being there for Mayor Fisk through it all, no matter what, no matter how. He becomes devoted to Mayor Fisk, not to his job, not to, the city, but to Mayor Fisk. And seeing Sheila in between, them as this interaction is happening, we instead see her in the bottle. She's no longer holding it. She's now in it. And the volatility is around her. And the walls are all closing in. And the walls truly close in when it when she interacts with the commissioner. The the situation with the commissioner is something that I loved when it came to her specifically. Um, the commissioner is the last true spark of, you know, um, a legal route, a like a jury, a justice route. The commissioner is holding on to that, is holding on to, making sure that this city doesn't go into the hands of the kingpin. He doesn't call Wilson by his name, he calls him the kingpin, because that's what he knows he is. And trying to get Sheila to testify and stand up with him, you almost, in the scene itself, you almost want to say to her, do not do it. It's heartbreaking. But in that moment, we watch life versus legislation. Which one are you willing to sacrifice everything for? What are you willing to truly do all of this for? And when we first see her agree to testify and, work against Wilson, you are proud, but there's this pit in your stomach until you see what she truly does, until you see her willingness to choose life. She chose, she knew that it's out of the bag. The box has been opened, it's out of the bag. The moment the electricity was shut down, the moment the assassination happened, the moment that Daniel starts gathering loyalty, she is very aware that right now she is in the center of a coup. And if she wants to stay alive, she will stay in the center of it, as though she is in the center of a storm. She's in the eye of it. And trying to run left, right, north, south, it's not going to work. And the commissioner was trying to run through it. And I really want to see how far she's willing to go for her life. At what point at what point is she going to say, I did maybe she can say the blood is not on my hand. My life is my life. The blood spilled by anybody else is not on my hand. But at what point is she going to realize that she might have to spill it? Or at worst, that the choices she's making are leading to really devastating like conclusions and situations. So yeah, I Sheila to me feels like a really great new character in such a established world. She feels so she kind of wove in so seamlessly with the mayor's office. She feels like she's part of it. She is the office. She is its representation, she is its structure, she is its laws. But everything starts to get bigger than her as the series goes along. So it's very exciting, and I'm so excited to see um how they choose to show her reaction to what her choices have become consequence for. How she either keeps going or stays put. Whether she'll run through the storm or she's going to continue to, guide herself through the eye of it. But the Daredevil Born Again, show, its characters, its themes, its the way it goes about sharing Matt's story, sharing Wilson's story, sharing these women's stories. It is so important. And yeah, you know, if I was to talk about the show, in its in my like most bare minimum uh critique about it is that it's too short. Daredevil Born Again suffers from the consequence of like all these movie studios axing, episode upon episode upon episode. This needed to be 16 episodes, not 2 seasons, 16 episodes in this season. It's incomplete. It feels incomplete. It feels like you gave us a mid season, hullabaloo, and then dipped. That's what it feels like. And on top of that, it shortens the amount of storytelling you can have. It really distorts the story because the story has so much to say, but is not given the time, the space, the tension to build on that. But I hope they realize that, and I hope they. I don't know if it's a money thing that has caused this whole shortening of episodes and in season and breaking them up, and I don't know if it's a production thing. I don't know if it's a contract thing, but one thing that I know for sure is that it's really hurting the ability to share a story, and uh narrate it, and allow characters to grow, become something new, something better. But yeah, I if you have reached this part of my spiel, God, this was so long. But I really liked the show, so I got my suit on. I figured I'd do it, dress up for the video. Why not? But yeah, I you guys will tell me how you felt about the show, how you felt about the characters that I spoke about, because I really liked them, and I want to know. I always want to know how other people feel about these. So yeah, this is great. I'm exhausted, and I'm gonna go take a nap.